Right, what are we going to do today? Right, today I'm going to show you how to make a 3D logo. Now, mine's just going to be text, but you can create whatever you want. So we get off by deleting the cube in the middle there. Select it, hit X and delete. And I'm going to add a ground plane simply because I like to have one about the place to remind me where the actual grid is. Some effects in Blender and some tools don't seem to work very well if the object is below the grid. Don't know why that is, but there you go. Now I'm going to turn on orthographic view rather than perspective because we're going to use a background image. And the next thing we need to do is create that background image. Now I'm going to use a website for this. It's a site I use quite often if I'm looking for a logo type text, and I use flamingtext.com. There's lots of different effects on there. Today we just want something simple. In fact, there's thousands of different logo styles. So just have a look around here until I find something simple. Actually that Shrek one I'll probably do, because all we want is the outline really of the font. Now it might surprise you to know that I don't really want the Shrek font. I'll change that in a minute. But the site that I'm doing this logo for is one of my own. It's twatzy.com. Yeah, it looks like all uppercase would be better. Yeah. And no, I don't want the .com. Just Twatsy. It's too many damn letters. Tutorial will be like hours long. Okay. Right, click on the fonts and just change the font to whatever you want. As I say, there's hundreds of them on here. I'm going to look around and show you a few, and then I'm going to cut the video, otherwise we'd be here all day. And I'll come back when I've selected the one I like. There's scripts, there's sci-fi, there's handwriting, there's standard stuff. Well, this isn't. Oh, I see what they mean by standard. It's ones that they've used, I think. Some really, really nice font. No, don't like that. That'd be very, not only difficult to draw, it's also unreadable. It's not a good idea to have something that's unreadable. Lowercase, that's better, but I don't like the T at the front. Okay. Here's the one I settled from. It's called Krilly. It's quite nice. It's got some little flicks at the end which make it look like not quite a standard font. Now, there's nothing worse. I mean, Blender actually has a font built in, but you use it, everyone will know about it. So I'm saving that as twatzylogo.png in my 3D directory as I save everything. And we'll come out of here. Right, now the first thing to do is to click in the main window and press the N key, which gets this neat little window up here. And if you look at the bottom there, it says background images, and we'll tick that and click add image. And we'll open and we'll find the image that we want, but first of all I'm going to set it to front view only, because otherwise it would be confusing if you saw it all over the place. There we go. No, it's that one. There we go. And there it is. Right, and we want to change the position of it, so we're also going to change the size of it. I think it's a bit big. Something like that. Okay. And you see at the bottom here we've got X and Y. We don't want to move it in X, we're going to move it in Y so it's above the plane, as I said earlier. There we go. Hit N again to get rid of the menu which obscures our screen. Right, now first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add in a plane, and then I'm going to click the neat little box down at the bottom left which says Align to View, and that plane is now, because we're in ortho mode, it's now precisely aligned to the front view, which is what we want. And the way I'm going to construct this is every letter will start with a plane, and I'm going to make an initial plane. I'll just move it to the centre and scale it down a bit. And to make sure that everything's in, if you like, the same plane, I keep saying the word plane although I don't like it, what I'm going to do is what I usually do in situations like this, is I'm actually going to keep that initial plane that I put on and use duplicate objects. So we know that they're all going to be in the same place. I've done this before and forgotten to do that and found that my logo twists all over the place. So not on a big scale but on a small scale, so it's quite a good idea to actually do that if you're making a logo that has multiple parts. If you know, like this has got loads of different letters. Now obviously you're not just restricted to letters. If you can find a logo, or there is existing a logo that you can get a picture of, then obviously you can put that up as a background image and trace around that. Because that's essentially what we're doing here, it's tracing, but it's tracing using a flat plane, and this is how to do it. Right, you take your initial plane, you place it on top of the letter, you zoom in, and you go to edit mode, and you basically move the vertices around so it covers the part of the letter that you want that plane to deal with. This particular plane is going to be the entire vertical upstroke of the T, and you just tiddle around with the corners until the corners are in a reasonable place. And then in a moment we're going to hit E for extrude and extrude a new section out from the top and use that to form the crossbar. So we'll select both the top vertices, hit the E key and extrude it up. Then we'll hit, just adjust the height somewhat. We hit those two, we hit E, extrude out to form the right hand part of the T. And here's a bit that I don't like, the T and the W are pretty much touching. This is what the professionals in the font industry call kerning, and I do not like the kerning on this font. So in a minute I'm going to move this T around a bit so that I'll probably scale it up and move it slightly to the left or something. We'll see. At the end of the day, it's your design, you do what looks right, unless of course it is a client logo, in which case touch it at your peril. You want to do pretty much exactly what they've got. But this is mine, so I'm going to do what the heck I like with it. Right, we now do the other side. And I know what you're asking yourself. You're asking yourself, just hit R and rotate, and we'll rotate that about in a minute. You're asking yourself, what about these kickbacks? How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to do that with the loop cut and slide tool. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to loop cut and slide. Put a loop cut there. So basically everywhere we want to kick back, I'm putting a loop cut. Now in some of these letters where they've got large kickbacks, you might want more than one loop cut to make sure it looks like a curve. But on the T, I think we'll get away with just one. So obviously the more loop cuts you put on, the more polygons there are, the longer it takes to process, blah blah blah. So I got used to keeping mine fairly low. Yeah, just massage these vertices until you get them in the right place. Sometimes when you're obscuring it, if it's a complicated design, and this one isn't, you can't really see what's underneath, so you can either turn wireframe on or have the picture you've got as a background in image viewer, so you can kind of flip it backwards and forwards. I normally use wireframe, but some people find it confusing. Okay. Right, now as I said, I want to move that T, so I'm going to go back into object mode. I think I'm just going to have to scale it up a bit actually and move it back. I don't want the letters touching, I don't think it looks right. Wouldn't make any difference, I mean I could draw them like that, but I'm just me, and I know the way I like certain things to look. That's about right, I think. That's better. Now, I've shown you how to do one letter. I'm not going to make you sit here with me through all the others. It's pretty easy, it's all the same, it's just duplicate the plane, put it in the right place and all the rest of it. Now, here we go, I've finished. Just finished the dot on the eye, and I now have a whole Twatsy logo. Great. And that took me about 10 minutes, 11 minutes, something like that. So there we go. But as you can see at the moment, there's no depth to it. It's 3D because it stands up, but that's about it. So now what we want to do is we want to put some depth in our logo. Now, first thing I want to do is join all the bits together so it's one object. So I hit B for box, select it, making sure I don't get anything else like the lamp, and hit join. And now that's all one object. And I'm going to rename it because at the moment it's called Planer 1. I'm going to rename it Twatsy so I know what it is. For Twatsy.com. Okay. Now we want to go about giving this logo some dimensionality. And the way to do that is to go into edit mode, and we'll select everything, and to do that you hit the A key twice. The first time deselect what you got selected, and the second time select everything. everything that is on the object, we hit E for extrude, and we can make it as deep or as shallow as we like. Well, I'm going to go, that looks okay, something like that. And at this stage the text will still look a bit flat, except for the O, and the reason is I constructed the O differently, so the O now has smooth shading on it, and yeah, so I need to get rid of that at some point. And we'll hit the A key again, and what I'm looking for, I'll just correct that business with the O. That's done. And at some point before you actually use this in anger, you really ought to select recalculate normals as well, because sometimes after an extrude the normals go funny. Not always, but sometimes. And what I'm looking for is something that seems to be missing, and that is it's a bit flat, and what we want to do is put a bevel on the edges, and now the way, I just thought, I think I read that as gone. Okay, something that's changed. I'm using Blender 2.63, and it used to be you selected all the bits that you wanted to bevel like this, and you had, under the faces menu, you had the ability to put a bevel just on that one face. However, they've taken it away, I believe. Yes, they have. Okay, bear with me. So if it's not there anymore, it's probably going to be in modifiers. Let's check it's not there. It's not there, chaps. Bet it's in modifiers. If it's in modifiers, I need to go back into object mode and add modifier. There you go, bevel. One of the problems with Blender being open source is it does get changed quite often, and some of the changes you might not always agree with. So we'll turn up or down that bevel amount there as we want, something like that, and then we'll apply it there. And it's beveled everything. It's a bit daft really, because sometimes you might not want to bevel every single edge of an object. Okay. So there we go. We'll give it a material. I'm going to make it a chrome type material. So to make a chrome, put the diffuse intensity somewhere in the middle, specular all the way up, and mirror reflectivity all the way up, and make the colour it reflects a little bit different, off towards the blue end. Not much, just a little bit. And that usually gives you quite a convincing chrome. Of course there's nothing much for it to reflect, but we'll see what it looks like. Do a trial render. There you go. There's a 3D logo. You might say to yourself, well, what can I do with a 3D logo? You can do all the usual things. You can spin it about and all the rest of it. You could make a fluid simulation. I'll show you that in a second. You could make some particle simulations, and I'll show you those in a second. You can fill it up with balloons. There we go. Bit of fluid sloshing about. And some nice red balls. How about that? 82,000 of them. And some nice balloons, 4,000 balloons. Enjoy. See you again.